use permit to have a commercial dog kennel and a dog daycare facility at 1400 Gateway Circle. The Bodie's just arrived, and Kim or Bob, would you just like to give an explanation of what you're proposing, please?
Hello, everybody. Thanks. So what our goal is to open up a dog daycare, and not so much a kenneling facility as a dog daycare. There would be dogs that would stay overnight, but the primary purpose would be a dog daycare, very similar to what a child daycare would be, where people would drop their dogs off in the morning before work, and then they would pick them up in the evening. We're looking at purchasing that facility on Gateway Circle, and we would be using the entire facility for this business. There's very little that we would actually have to do to the building itself. It's almost perfect for what we're looking for. It was 5-star auto, if you're familiar with that. And I think if we were to build it, we'd almost lay it out exactly as that building is. The only thing that we would be doing outside is the plan would be to construct a 6-foot solid dog-eared fence around, and that would give the dogs a place to go outside. It would always be supervised. They would never be outside without a handler or a person, and it would just be for limited time so they could be outside, get some fresh air, go to the bathroom, hopefully. Yes?
Question, if you are going to have dogs overnight, would you have an attendant on duty? Then would you have somebody there during the night? Or
they wouldn't be there 24 hours, but they would be there probably up until 9 or 10, and then we'd be back at 6 in the morning.
And they would be in the main building then if
Yes.
they did that?
Yeah, there would never be any dogs outside unattended.
Well, my concern is if some started barking and barking and barking and barking and barking and...
Sure. That's a possibility. We do plan to also have cameras, and those cameras would have sound too, so we'd be monitoring that. But I think we've done some testing there just from sound, and inside of that building, I think it would be, from where the building's located, I don't know that it'd be anything that anyone would be able to hear, or certainly wouldn't disturb anyone, unless they were sitting in the parking lot or something.
How many dogs are you gonna have? What's the max?
Yeah, I think the projected maximum amount is probably 75 to 100 dogs. Now that would be fantastic if we could get there. I'm not sure if or when we could get there. We're projecting probably that 35 to 45 dogs is probably going to be kind of our sweet spot. But the facility is big enough that it could easily handle more dogs than that. It's about 7,000 square feet.
Cleaning of the dog's business and disposing of it.
Sure.
I mean, how are you going to be, on a hot day, putting it in a garbage can outside can be.
Yeah. So what the plan would be to, all the dog waste would be bagged up, and there would be a dumpster, and the plan would be nothing would go into that dumpster that isn't sealed in a bag. And then other waste would probably end up in the sanitary sewer system, right. Because we can spray down the floor. But the primary way of disposing of the waste would be in plastic bags and then put it into a dumpster.
Is it daily that you would be cleaning that, or?
It would be daily.
Are you offering any other services like grooming, training, anything else that you'd associate with keeping dogs?
Sure. Initially, that's a possibility that training is not really something that we're looking at right now. Mm-hmm. There may be a possibility that we might do some grooming there, but that's not the main focus of the business. That would be something maybe a little bit down the road.
Any veterinary care or medical for the pets?
Yeah, my wife is a vet tech. And then we would also have a veterinarian on staff. But again, the purpose is not to supply veterinary care. There may be, probably the most veterinary care that there would be is we might give vaccinations there to the dogs so that they come into the facility. There's required, yes, yeah. Bordetella, rabies, distemper. Those are the 3 vaccinations that dogs have to have. Very common to go into any type of kenneling facility, any overnight facility.
So if you have two dogs that just don't get along, which it happens.
Sure.
Do you have someone who's, I mean, you're a vet tech, so I get that you probably could handle it, but if you're not there, are you gonna have staff trained to be able to handle these situations where, because
Yeah.
that's where the barking can get really,
Absolutely. I actually have one daughter. So it's going to be the primary managers of the facility will be my wife and two of our girls, both of whom are graduated from college. One is actually has experience working in a canine facility. And then so one of those three will always be on site. And then there will be other dog handlers that will always be there. There will never be less than 2 people on the site. So that there can always be someone who can take in customers, and the dogs will never be left alone. And as far as your question about dogs not getting along, the facility will be split into several different what they call play groups. So there's play groups for old dogs, young dogs. There might be dogs that are aggressive towards each other, and if they didn't get along with anyone, they would be in standalone kennels or runs, but it wouldn't be a free-for-all. They'd be very carefully monitored, and before they could even go into a play group, there would be some behavioral analysis done to figure out where they should be.
okay.
And my 2 concerns, which you kind of addressed them all, would be smell, number 1.
Yeah, absolutely.
And noise, number 2.
Right.
I don't think it's fair to impose on your neighbors any noise
No, absolutely not.
or anything like that, so that would be where we would ask that you keep that where it belongs.
Yeah. And both of those issues, to tell you the truth, there are key goals for us to keep both of those to an absolute minimum. So it's very important for us that when the customers come in, they're not smelling urine or anything else. We want to keep it as clean as possible. There's state-of-the-art air handling facilities in that building because it was a auto repair. And just the noise alone, by managing dogs in the different play groups, really keeps the noise levels down. Typically, dogs start barking when there's chaos in that group. So totally understand the sound and the noise situation, and that will be something we'll monitor very closely.
Okay, thank you.
Have you had firsthand experience with a similar operation before?
I personally have not. My daughter has. She's actually working at one right now.
Danny, do you have something on that?
The number of dogs that be outside at one time?
It would be only the number that one person could handle. So I'm guessing, there might be 10 dogs outside at a time. And when I say outside, when they go out, it's out for a very limited period of time. So ideally, if we could train every dog to go outside and go to the bathroom, so we could clean it up outside, that would be our goal. So they would be going out in groups, maybe a couple times a day for 10 or 15 minutes. So the idea is not that we have a run that we just release these dogs out and they run around and bark and chase each other all day. It's purely for a larger exercise area and then hopefully to relieve themselves outside. A lot of dogs don't like to go to the bathroom inside. They're trained their whole life not to go to the bathroom in the house, and then they go to these facilities and they're expected to go to the bathroom in the house. So we'd really like to try and maintain that outside.
It's my understanding that this run area is near a swale or a potential water drainage area. Is that correct, Danny?
Correct, to the south.
On one end it is, and we would adjust to go around that, or at the very least, we would adjust so that water can freely flow through there through
Well,
cattle.
that's not my concern. My
Okay.
concern is if there's dog poop, laying there and it rains, where does that go?
Sure. Well, it would. We would, first of all, the dog poop would be picked up on a regular basis, a daily basis to be cleaned out of there. We don't want the dogs running through it. And then as far as the dog waste running through there, there's only one section where water actually runs through there, and that's on the very far section. And the more I look at it, the drawing that you have overlaps that. I think what we would probably do is bypass that area. And from that point forward, there certainly could be runoff just based on like rain that we've had in the last few days, but there isn't an actual flow through area.
Stream.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's, from the back of the curb south of the building to their property line is about 53 feet. They're proposing 35. There's a 15-foot stormwater easement. And then that's kind of the bottom, at the south end of that's the bottom of the swale, and then you start going up to the Menards fence. So the actual flow of most of the stormwater will go in that open area, won't be in the fence area. They're running basically south. What we talked about as far as the fence is that, you know, if they leave just enough area at the bottom, but then put some kind of a screening or something where the water can go through, but not dam on the north side of the fence, that'd be a way to address it. What Bob is talking about is discharge area at the southeast corner of the building. There's riprap there. That's the main drainage area for the parking lot. You have to design the fence accordingly. They'll be able to address that. But you know, if you want to consider approval of the conditional use permit, then a fence, one of the conditions I would strongly suggest is that the fence plan must be submitted to the city staff for review before it can be erected.
Now, to avoid the low areas, what I was.
Yeah, I mean, we want to, you know, address some of the areas. We want the fence looks nice. You're on a slight slope. You want to, you know, if you have 8-foot sections on a fence, depending on how they do it, whether they're using individual panels or boards or using 8-foot panels, how you step that down, still keep it looking nice on a slope area. So we want to make sure if you're looking at possibly recommending approval of the conditional use permit, that the fence would be approved by the city staff.
So the conditional use permit will have to be approved yearly, or
Or
is
you
it-
could put it on, you can set that review, or make a recommendation to set a review. You can have a 1-year review, and then after the 1 year, if everything goes fine,
let
you
it
know,
go?
then you go 3 years or whatever, but
I'll move to approve with the stipulations that Danny said with the review, just because you're new, and want to watch it, not offend the neighbors, set for 1 year.
I'll second it.
Can we maybe,
And then you can change it after the
Yeah.
1 year. If everything's fine, then we go 3 years or we do something else.
Sure.
But-
can we
but
put that,
initially.
can you put that in the motion so that if there's a different commission, they just,
Well, that
Or is
comes up
that-
when it
Comes up in a year.
I suppose it comes up in a year and you look at it, then, yeah.
Mark, you have any questions?
The fence would be,
Why don't you come up to the microphone so everybody can,
the fence is planned to be constructed south of the building?
Yes.
south
So
of
it's
the fire
between-
line.
Yeah, between the building and Menards fence there.
Okay. And that area would go all the way to the east of your property line, or?
Potentially to the east, depending on what's decided, but it would go to the west side of the property there.
And they're proposing a width of 185 feet, which basically is the west side of the drive lane on the west side of the building, over to the east side of the drive lane on the east side of the building,
So
so.
it doesn't actually go all the way to the property line.
Okay.
You have approximately 30 to 35 feet from both property lines.
Okay, that's, yeah, only question I had was where the fence was gonna be, I guess, exactly.
Where are you in relation to this?
Right here.
Oh, okay.
Honda's Motorsports.
Honda, Yamaha.
Oh, yeah,
no,
okay.
Sports.
So, do you have, what are your concerns?
I guess I was just,
Sorry, gentlemen,
Oh, sorry.
the meeting's
yep,
chaired by the chairman, and conversations are directed to the planning commission.
Okay, no problem.
anything else? Anybody? You guys can talk afterwards if you like.
Yeah, we will.
Motion on the
Okay,
floor.
yep, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there any other item for future business or upcoming agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. We're adjourned, thank you.